Okay, almost there. If you just bear with me a moment, please.
That's fine.
Okay, that should be fine.
We're ready to go now, are we?
We are ready.
Okay, thank you very much. Right, welcome to everybody. As far as I can see, we've got about 19 people plus Garth and Misbah. So that's a pretty good attendance, I think, at this morning's meeting. It may be that others will join us in due course. Well, I've not included Lisa's dog, which appeared on screen a moment ago. But anyway, welcome to Lisa's dog, as long as the dog can behave itself. That's fine. Okay. First of all, Misbah, what apologies have you had for this morning?
Thank you, Chair. So I have apologies from County Councillor Azar Ali, from Tibrit Safraz, from Sajda Majid. But Sajda has, obviously Peter is in attendance for Sajda.
Yes.
And that's it, I think.
And we had apologies in advance from Sally Elton Chalcraft from the University of Cumbria,
yes.
who has let us know that she will no longer be able to be a member of the Sacre because of other commitments that she has. And so she will be looking to nominate somebody else from the University of Cumbria, whom we will be able to invite in due course.
Yes. So unfortunately, yes, Sally is unable to carry on with the commitment for Lancashire Sacre. Caroline will carry on being here with us.
Yes.
And Sally has said as soon as she can in due course, she will select a representative so that we still have
somebody else who can join us, because that is important to have the voice of the of higher education on our Sacre as far as we can. Right, the minutes of the last meeting, the most important aspect of this is to make sure that if you were present at the last meeting, the last virtual meeting, that your name was properly recorded on that. And perhaps I should just read through those who were recorded as attending. Anne Cheetham, County Councillor Anne Cheetham, County Councillor Yusuf Matala, County Councillor Peter Steen, for the Church of England, John Wilson, Joan O'Rourke and Helen Sage, from the Roman Catholic Church, Ben McMullen, from the Methodist, Professor Alan Gillies, from Hinduism, Harsha Shukla and Ishwar Taylor, from Islam, Mufti Khalid Ibrahim, from Buddhism, Kelsang Pakpa, from Judaism, Robert Ash, from the Board of Education of Blackburn Diocese, Lisa Horbin, from the higher education sector, Carolyn Reid, and Kathleen Cooper was one of the those co-opted as a non-voting member, was in attendance. And we had Sajda from Building Bridges Burnley, and Malcolm Craig from the Baha'i Faith, and Keith Pennington as well from the Humanists. Is there anybody who thinks that they were in attendance at the last meeting whose name wasn't recorded? That's okay then. Then we can proceed to the next item on the agenda, which is the pupil visits policy feedback. Now, I know that this has been issued by Misbah to all members, and I would like to see if we've got comments about this draft document at this stage, please. No.
Excellent document.
Pardon?
An excellent document, Peter.
Thank you very much. Right, that's one comment. Other comments? That you may need to unmute yourself if you're going to make a comment about this. Certainly, I'd like to thank John for particularly for leading on this, because whilst the origin of the document was Enfield's material, it nevertheless has been suitably adopted for our use, I think. And I think we agreed last time round that actually having Sacre badges may not be necessarily practical, and that DBS would not be required, because at all stages of visits, we would expect members of the Sacre to be accompanied in schools as visitors under the visits policy of any school, because it's not possible for them to make sure that everybody attending the school as a visitor is DBS cleared. Are there any other elements? John, what can you add to that?
No, I was just going to say that Malcolm deserves equal recognition.
Thank you, Malcolm. Exactly, because Malcolm, thank you for that. Are there other issues that have been raised by this draft document? Carolyn.
Hi, I can't see where to put my hand up on the screen, but
well, if you just raise your hand in the middle and wave it, I shall recognise that you're there, because I've got a full.
Thanks. Sorry about that. Yeah, I thought it was an absolutely brilliant document. I absolutely loved it. The only thing that occurred to me, there's a section on progress, and it asks how the teacher explains how she knows the children are making progress. And I wondered whether to also just add how the children are assessed and how their progress is recorded and tracked, you know, to try and capture, if we can, a little bit more exactly how the schools are using sort of success criteria or recording end of key stage statements, to just include a statement on assessment as well as progress.
Right. Colleagues, do you have any comments on that? And John, would you like to reflect on that?
Right. No, I mean, I think that's a very fair comment. We wanted to avoid the idea that Sacres were in any way inspecting.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I do think it is a fair comment to make, because obviously we have to monitor standards. So how teachers assess and record, I think, is quite a valid question to ask.
I think that is certainly a useful comment. One thing that did strike me, John and Malcolm, was when agreeing to the visit, the date and the time of the visit, also having an idea how long the visit might be, because for those visiting, it would be helpful to know how long they're going to be tied down. For the school, also to know what the sort of expectation is. I know that a visit that I undertook with Carolyn, and I'm trying to think who else was with us, in Lancaster, we were in fact engaged for really quite a long time in the school, and the school was very proud of what it was achieving, and we were very pleased to spend that time in there. But I felt that probably it would have helped us to know exactly what the expectation, to have agreed an expectation of time in advance, rather than just to go in and it be, if you will, an untimed ending to it. And one other thing that I just wondered if we should put in to our visit, to realise that whenever we're visiting, it will be within a normal school day, and that in a normal school day in any school, stuff happens. And therefore you may need to readjust your expectations, and it might be necessary to terminate the visits because stuff has happened. I've been in schools in the past when there's been an unexpected but pupil-triggered fire alarm set off, which has certainly upset the apple cart. And I think just realising that stuff does happen in schools from time to time is something that we need to be prepared for. Alison.
I think it's an excellent document, and I don't want to create jobs unnecessarily, but I thought perhaps a parallel document that could be just written in a different way for schools, so that when a school agrees to have a visit, or we or volunteers, we could actually send a document to the school as well. So it's written with the school as the audience so that they know what to expect also. Because this is written for us.
Yes.
I didn't know whether there could be a parallel document that was also written for the schools, so they were clear about what the visit was about and what to expect.
I think that's a very good suggestion, and it might be simply that could be done as a series of perhaps 10 bullet points, rather than a long extended document.
Yes.
Do we have any? Yes, Alan. Alan, you'll need to unmute.
Apologies.
Thank you.
At the risk of being slightly pedantic, but based on several conversations with a previous member of Sacre, who was also a primary school head teacher, I just wonder about the use of the word assemblies.
Yes.
Whether, given what we are, whether we should be careful to differentiate between an act of collective worship and an assembly, because an assembly is a meeting of children, a collective meeting of children, but not necessarily for the purpose of collective worship. And given the nature of our committee, at the risk of being pedantic, I think perhaps we should be a little bit more precise about what we mean in that point. So
I think that's a very good point. And in that regard, I wondered if one of the questions that one might be looking to ask of pupils was any opportunity that they had to participate in collective worship. Because that I think would be something that a lively school with appropriate religious education at the core of what it was trying to provide should be making sure that pupils are engaged in collective worship rather than just observers thereof. And just one further thing that occurred to me in speaking with staff, asking them perhaps about their access to funding, their access to training, and that's not necessarily raising their expectations, but just simply making some realization for them of the expectation they should have of how important their subject is within the curriculum. And finally, perhaps making sure that at the point where those visiting express their thanks back to the school, to ask that the visit is recorded as something that is reported to governors, since the governing body is ultimately responsible for the curriculum in the school and for making sure that RE, a statutory subject, is appropriately delivered. Because very often governors are somehow left out of the loop.
Chair, we've got a request.
Any further comments? I wonder if we've got some more hands
We've got a
waving.
request to speak from Helen.
Helen.
Hi,
Helen.
I was waiting patiently, Peter. It's fine.
I'm sorry.
Firstly,
the yellow hand which shows up doesn't show very well against your decorations in your house. So.
Oh, well, the builders are here and I'm about to lose my internet, so you can get rid of me on all counts and I'll ask them to redecorate to help.
Oh dear,
My only
dear me,
point
right.
really was to support Alison and what Alan was saying, that actually issuing a briefing paper to schools is helpful. They need to be really clear while you are rocking up at their gates, particularly in the current climate, which we wouldn't be doing, but it's really focused that actually schools understanding the nature of the business of Sacre and actually using the right terminology, as has been pointed out by both Alison and Alan, is key to any successful visit by us, I would suggest. And the clarity of our operation, so to speak, is really important to its success. So that was really it. And I'm ever so sorry, colleagues, but I'm going to have to go because they are going to pull the plug on me. So have a lovely...
The plug has been pulled for Helen, right. Okay, thank you very much to Helen. Kathleen.
Thank you, Peter, for the comment about reporting back to governors, because I think that is important, that governors have an opportunity to learn what's happening in the school and how Sacre are supporting the school.
Yes,
Okay.
and the importance of RE within the curriculum. The fact that
Absolutely.
the Sacre sees it important enough to be making such a visit. Are there any other elements that we ought to add to this? I know there is a danger that you make it a bit of a wish list and we start adding things on. And in that regard, I'm minded to think of a great friend, sadly no longer with us, who as a bachelor decided he wanted to get married. So he started to make a list of the things that he was looking for in a wife. And this literally happened. And he would flick out a list from his pocket when he met an appropriate young lady and start saying, are you this? Do you smoke? Are you interested in music? Do you like walking? And of course, the difficulty was that he met people who had attributes that he'd not got on his list. So the list got longer and longer and longer, and therefore his requirements were more and more exclusive. However, after, I think it was 17 years, he did finally manage to become happily married. But that is a true story of our friend George, no longer with us. And it just told me that perhaps sometimes you have to say of any list, there comes a point where we have to stop. But if there are other comments that people would like to make about this, then I think it's important that you should have the opportunity to pass your comments back to MISBA. Shall we put a deadline of the end of this week, and they can then be passed through to Alison for her to communicate appropriately with John and with Malcolm, and we can finalise this document once and for all. Is that helpful, Alison? Yes, okay, right, okay. Right, so we move to the next item on the agenda is the Agreed Syllabus Conference feedback. We held an Agreed Syllabus Conference meeting in December, and I'm now going to look to Alison to speak to this, please.
Well, I didn't think I was probably the best person to do that, so I was hoping that another member of the committee would do. I know Lisa's there. I can see Lisa.
Lisa, would you like to comment about the meeting that we held in December?
I've slept since then.
I know.
I was thinking that Alison would report back because she was making notes. I think that from my memory, I would say that Sacre need to know what a fantastic job that Alison has already been doing, preparing the ground and moving things forward for the syllabus to be updated. It was we all agreed very much that it was an update, and that the schemes of work that are being written are excellent and very detailed, and that needed to continue, and the actual syllabus was the sort of the first few pages, if you like, and that they just needed updating with various current jargon and current thinking in RE. And yeah, I think we sent Alison away to do some work, really. And yeah, so, and it seemed that it was a very achievable task. We created a sort of a vague timetable. We've arranged our next meeting, and yeah, I would say, Sacre, we're cracking on, and it'll be job done.
Is it worth saying, Alison, that this is in the context that every 5 years we do have to technically revise the syllabus or review the syllabus, and much of the background work you've been able to achieve with help from, especially from Joanne Harris from Broughton High School. But your view, having worked with her, was that the fundamental stuff was simply making sure that the language used in the introductory section was more up to date and perhaps not quite so stilted, and that some of the exemplification you were still working through with her and with other colleagues in schools, but their availability at the present time is very limited. and as all education professionals at the moment, they're under great pressure from everything else that's going on, from schools not working as normal, and therefore we have to do the best that we can in the circumstances. But we are indebted to what Alison has already been able to achieve by cooperating with others, and we look forward to making progress at our next meeting, which, if I remember rightly, is it just about a month away, Alison?
Yes, it's in March.
Yes,
Yes.
it's in March, yes. Yeah, that's right. Do you have anything else to add to that?
No, I did meet with Joanne. I know it is difficult at the moment
Yes.
with the way things are, but we've actually put a date in the diary to actually get the whole thing completed by the last day of May. So we hope that the beginning of June it'll be finished. And then we can start thinking about how we provide training to schools ready for a September start.
That's excellent. Thank you
That's
very
the
much
plan,
indeed.
anyhow. Yeah.
Malcolm, did I see that you were wanting to say something?
No,
Malcolm?
I didn't raise my hand, no.
No, well, you may have raised your hand, but maybe not deliberately. Right. Okay, thank you very much. Are there any other comments or questions about the Agreed Syllabus Conference? Right, so we move on to Collective Worship Group feedback and next steps. And here, I think, Alison, you may be able to tell us a little bit about this.
Well, last time we met, there was a small group who said that they volunteered to have a look at the materials, the Moors and Doors materials on the RE website, and do a first step of just evaluating what they thought of what we were already providing. So I guess at this stage, it's perhaps asking for some feedback from that group and then agreeing what our next steps might be.
Yes, that was Anne Cheetham, Kathleen Cooper, Ben McMullen, and Helen Sage. Now, Helen, of course, has now been disconnected, so we can't get anything back from her. Kathleen, has any progress?
I have to confess that I haven't done anything at all about
Right,
this.
okay. You've not been involved in this at all yet, right?
At
Okay.
the moment.
Should I just say something then? I mean,
Yes,
the materials on the website were written in 2011.
Yeah, they're 9 years old.
They are
7 years old.
They are actually pretty good, I think. I don't think that they would need too much tweaking, but maybe we could make it the focus of the QSS meeting coming up.
Yes.
I have
That would be
also
helpful.
selected a number of collective worship guidelines from other Sacres that have been updated in 2020, 2021. And I didn't know whether before the QSS I should circulate those so that the group could maybe do a bit of a comparison to see if there's anything in theirs that we have thought missed in ours. That might
would
be a
certainly be
starting
helpful.
point.
That would be helpful. Thank
Yeah.
you,
Okay.
Peter.
Thank you.
Yes, that would be very helpful.
Alison, you're going to circulate that to those people who had put their names forward, and would you also include me in that so that I can see that?
Yes, I didn't know whether there's a QSS coming up, isn't there?
Yes.
Yes, there
I
is.
didn't know whether that could be the item for the agenda.
It's probably appropriate that we should actually give full attention to that together.
Yeah.
If we've actually done some prep work in advance, then it will make better sense to address that at that stage. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. That's certainly a helpful suggestion. Ms. Boak, could you make sure that Helen Sage is notified of that, given that she's now disconnected?
Yes, Chair, I will.
Right, thank you. So that when Alison issues the stuff, she'll realise what it's about. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, and we now come, Alison, to your local officer verbal report and the newsletter.
Well, I don't have much to say, to be honest. I know you've got the newsletter. The only other two things to say, is that Joanne agreed to do some training, some free training for schools, which is in the diary for the 9th of February. Helen Hall will help her with that. And actually it was posted on the LPDS website and was sold out immediately. We've got 32 people currently registered for that training. And I think 18 people on a waiting list. So that's really good news. And that's next week. So I just wanted to share that with you. And the other thing I wanted to ask you, I'm presuming because all statutory assessments have been cancelled this year, that you won't be requiring me to ask schools for their attainment data. Only I will at some stage need to just confirm that with all the schools in Lancashire.
Yeah, well, it certainly seems inappropriate in the in the climate that's operating at the present time, and the decisions that are being made far above us, shall we say. So yeah, that sounds sensible enough. I think we ought to record our serious thanks to Joanne Harris for her involvement in so much of what's going on from our point of view behind the scenes, but making sure that there is something still being offered to professionals in schools. And the fact that you've signed up, well, filled such a course at a stroke and lots of people waiting shows that the demand really is there. In fact, there's probably a much greater demand than that. Yes, Kathleen.
Does that indicate that the way forward for training is possibly via, a sort of blended approach?
And I'll have to discuss
young people, teachers, and certainly I have to say that I found Zoom very good in that I don't need to spend an hour before a meeting and an hour after a meeting travelling there and travelling back, sometimes in inclement situations, sometimes in the evening. So maybe there's food for thought as regards looking at a blended approach to training.
Yes, I think Alison, you will be speaking with Joanne and getting her view as just how successful this proves to be. But certainly, in the present climate, we have no alternative, have we?
No, that's true.
None whatsoever. That's helpful. As far as the Lancashire Youth Voice is concerned, that's the next item on our agenda. We have nothing to report at the present time, have we? I'm afraid that direct involvement with pupils is off limits at the present time. So, Misbah, is there any correspondence of note that we need to mention?
No, Chair, I don't have anything. I know there may be members that want to share some information, but we can do that under the next item, I think.
Yes, well, in respect to the next item, I know that Peter Lumsden had raised with you the fact that on Thursday of this week, there is a webinar about COVID, faith and public health. And Peter, do you want to speak to that at the moment?
Thanks, Chair. Only briefly to say it's happening. And two of the directors of public health from Lancashire are involved in that, as well as faith. People cross over between medicine, religion, science. I know that about 80 people have signed up so far, so it seems to be there seems to be interest. So I'm just thinking at the moment what sort of format, how to manage breakout groups, etc. But it will be recorded. And just thinking of that previous discussion around training, whether it's been done through the auspices, if you like, of the Lancashire Form of Faith with churches together in Lancashire. So, if there's any input we can make, we've run several webinars now quite successfully, I think. Very happy to bring our resources to the table.
Well, the background of this, trying to dispel myths and to discern truths about vaccination in particular, I think has to be seen as entirely an admirable aim in the present circumstances. And I was slightly dismayed to learn that supplies of vaccine to Lancashire and the Northwest are to be reduced in the near future. I think that all we have to hope is that we can get vaccination to all vulnerable people at the earliest possible date. But dispelling myths within certain communities
Absolutely.
a vital role. And
Yeah.
so this is being done with the cooperation of Lancashire County Council, isn't it?
Yeah, and the Resilience Forum,
Yes.
because in this instance, it's you know, ideas and myths circulating around vaccination, but another time it might be something else. So ways exploring public health messaging and of how to reach communities where there is suspicion or resistance or hesitancy, sometimes for theological reasons, ostensibly,
Yes.
is a good first step for us, I think, and something that I hope that we can continue in that vein in the future.
I know Harsha wanted to say something, and I think Ishwa also wanted to say.
Just wanted to say that, of course, from the Hindu Forum Britain, we are very much involved with the ministers of this, the MSCLG, HLG, and then also with the census and everything. And there is a lot of media portrays wrong way as well. And I think that social media is very strong. And I think people, you know, they jump to the bandwagon and give the wrong information, and people take that if the media is saying that something has to be right in there. So there's a lot of issues are there as well. So I'm concerned, yes, and we are also trying to, you know, myth busting webinar and everything. Thank you.
Yes. Ishwa, did you want to say something?
No, I'm okay. I think Harsha just highlighted the point which I was going to anyway.
Anybody else wanted to make any points in respect of that? And are there any other items that members wish to raise under members' news?
Chair, I think we've got Khalid that wants to speak.
Khalid, yes. Khalid, I think you'll need to unmute your microphone. Right, Khalid, please do speak now. Hello, Khalid. Khalid, at the moment we can't hear you.
Sorry, I'm not sure. Something wrong with the mic.
We can now hear you.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, just for information purposes, really. There's been a lot of, Peter mentioned about theological reasons, but from an Islamic perspective, there's been a lot of verdicts that have been sort of issued in terms of permissibility. As we approach Ramadan, it's going to become more of an issue. But having said that, individuals who will be fasting, there should be no reason for them not to be vaccinated whilst they are fasting as well. I thought I'll just put this in as just for knowledge base, really.
Thank you very much. Are there any other comments that people wish to make? Any members' news that people wish to add in at the moment? Malcolm.
This week is World Interfaith Harmony Week, something that was started by the United Nations quite a number of years ago. And Preston Baha'i Community is putting on an event tonight at 7 o'clock that is about faith in action, the being and doing of religion, which I hope people will find interesting and find they've got something to contribute because of all their experiences in working in food banks and doing all sorts of other wonderful social action. So the discussion starts at 7 o'clock, and I'll put the details in the chat box.
Thank you very much indeed. Is there anything else that anybody would like to add at the moment? Then I think, since Malcolm is our only observer, and I think you would have made a contribution further than that if you'd wanted to, wouldn't you, Malcolm? We simply then need to look at the date of the next meeting, which is Monday, 26th of April. And unless there are other items that any of you wish to raise at the moment, then I'd like to thank you very much for taking part in this morning's Sacre meeting and wish you well. Hope that you're able to stay safe. Those of you who haven't yet been vaccinated, I hope that sometime soon they will catch up with you, and hope that we shall all meet satisfactorily again on the 26th of April. And in particular, I'd like to thank Alison and Misbah for drawing together the material for this this morning's meeting, and to reiterate our thanks to John and Malcolm for the work on the visits policy, which I think we're getting closer to being able to finalise. Thank you very much indeed, everybody.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you,
Thank you very much.
Peter. Thank you, Peter.
Take care.